if their party has just had this much success, surely the thing they should be doing is continuing whatever they've been doing. Like, they finally addressed immigration, etc. Surely that's what they should focus on, rather than suddenly leaving behind their core and going straight to the centre, which would be a massive mistake. But it shows that that's people like Beth Rigby were saying that.
Welcome to another episode of Fox and Father with me, the Fox, and him, the
Father.
It's a show where Calvin tries to tutor me in the ways of righteousness and fails dismally, as we've noticed over the years. But he's actually doing pretty well on many levels. Calvin, I can't help but notice that you look sort of like you're in a cathedral or something. What's going on there?
A lovely tapestry behind me, which one of my parishioners bought for me as a gift. It's lovely, isn't it? It's got Mary and baby Jesus.
But they're white. Jesus was not white.
Gosh, I just started already.
I'm just saying.
I don't see colour, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, everyone else does. How are you? I wanted to delay this one because you obviously had some stuff going on, so I wanted to find out how you were doing.
That's why. It's not because you're sporadic and erratic.
Well,
it can't be pinned down to a time. It's not because of that.
But all right, fine. It's Bank Holiday Monday. Let me relax.
Oh, is it? It's Bank Holiday. Is it raining?
No, it's VE Day. So do you remember? I remember in my childhood, VE Day was celebrated so hugely. I mean, I'm not in London, so I can't see it, but it was a really big deal, and there were flags everywhere, and it from social media, which I'm actually trying to avoid again for a bit. It's just too draining.
Yeah, I went to the Cenotaph last year for VA Day, and then I think it was it Mail? Someone published, Father Calvin Robinson, here's Tommy Robinson's call for the far right to go down to. I'm like, I can't deal with these things.
Yeah, the far right thing is getting really boring, I have to say. But in honor of those, including both of my grandfathers who served, one of them, my dad's father, William Fox, he was awarded the Military Cross, which is a serious medal.
It's cool.
And the Virtuti Militari, which is a Polish medal, I think the equivalent of the Polish VC.
Wow.
So he was a brave guy and suffered very serious shrapnel injuries, which may or may not have played some part in his death. 58 years old when he was younger, but he also had lung cancer. But it's what caused the lung cancer, and I suppose a lung full of lead might help it alongside, it's half 1/6 of the other, half dozen of 1/6 of the other. And then my other grandfather served in Burma and did not meet my mum until she was, I think, 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
he got home when he had a 6-year-old daughter.
He got my mum, I could be wrong, so just, but I think it was definitely a good period of years.
Wow.
And it affected their relationship forever, because he then got home and obviously had another kid. And I think my mum felt throughout her life that, some part of their relationship was missing, which it was, because they were off doing things selflessly to serve the British Empire, which children are taught to loathe. Not the British Empire, actually, to defend the world from fascism and communism. And the reason why there's no sort of hoo-ha about it on social media or in schools is because they've successfully indoctrinated our children to hate the generation that fought so hard to give them the luxury to moan. That's what I reckon. What do you reckon?
I agree entirely. My grandfather was in the Royal Air Force, but I think he was too young to be in World War II. But my father served in the Royal Horse Guard Artillery. So he went over to Northern Ireland and drove a tank. He loved it. He had a great time, actually. I shared a picture of it on my Instagram, I think last year, maybe on this day. And
Dennis?
Yes, with his rifle, sat on a tank or something like that.
I love it. Dennis. I wouldn't want to come up against Dennis in any form of either long-range combat or close-quarter combat.
Yeah.
Just the way Dennis looks at you when he's, when you're a little bit rude, Dennis. And he gives you that look.
Yeah, not many people are rude to Dennis.
You can do that once, and if you do it again, you're in big trouble.
You won't remember it. Yeah.
So there we are on V-Day today. And I suppose there's quite a lot to talk about. We're going to have to dig into politics a bit because, such is the way of things. There has been an historic victory for reform across the council elections. What do you make? Well, we haven't even asked each other how we are. Let's leave.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I've got to go to court again on Friday.
And then
I've got to go to court. I've got to go to court on Friday, this Friday, next Friday, and the Friday after.
Okay. So this is a continuation of last week.
No, they've now got new cases about ULEZ that they want to do. The charge of which is, I mean, you just know that the country's going to crap. I had a slight argument. It wasn't an argument, but it was a really slightly strained debate with someone I respect, who was like, well, you get yourself into all this trouble and then you complain when you're in the trouble. And I'm like, have you read the fucking charge sheet, mate? The charge sheet goes, you did something which may have made someone else do something who might have wanted to do something. It's just so silly. And it's like, why you've got criminals everywhere in this country and you're pursuing your political opponents who are like me, some dude with a cap and, slightly gobby about the fact that I don't want our country to turn into a communist shithole. I mean, I'm hardly public enemy number one, am I? But actually, that's what they do. They just turn on those people. So, yeah, the disagreement I had was like, well, you just got to play it smart, mate. You've got to play it much smarter. And I'm like, okay, well,
what does that mean other than being quiet and not?
Yeah, exactly. You try being persecuted relentlessly and see how quiet that makes you. But, it's a good point. It's a fair point and I'll take it. So that's how I am. I just got back from walking the dogs, which was lovely. They're all eating grass for some reason. Someone can no doubt tell us in the comments why they do that. Because and I throw the ball out with one of those chuck it things out onto the marshes with the dogs and they go mental. And the little puppies, who are now no longer puppies as of 3 days ago or 4 days ago, whenever their birthday was, they're now dogs. They are the rare puppy who's got the wonky eye is the best dog ball finder. So she's overtaken Blaze, who as the dog ball finder. So we did that, and yeah, I'm trying to do relatively little on this bank holiday. I'm going to do a bit of music later and a bit of writing and reading and stuff. That's me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm tired today. I woke up, I slept through for the first time in, I don't know, it must be like 10, 15 years. I can't remember the last time I slept through.
What does that mean?
Where you don't wake up in the night.
Oh no, that's never happened to me.
Like men always need to wake up, but they always need to lit to the loo or something in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
Last night I just slept the whole way through. It was weird. It was a blessing. I don't very often get much sleep. I usually wake up at like 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and then I'm awake for a couple of hours. Then maybe I get another half an hour of sleep. So yeah, it was nice. But yeah, I'm not used to that, and it's massively overcast here in Michigan today as well, which doesn't help with the energy levels. But all is good. It was an interesting Sunday yesterday. The parish had a vote on whether they want to remain in the Anglican Catholic Church with the bishop, or if they wanted to leave the Anglican Catholic Church and leave the bishop. And they voted in a majority to leave the Anglican Catholic Church and the bishop. That's their decision, and there's certainly lots of stuff that will come out over the next few weeks, I'm sure, of the bullying and the lies and the emotional manipulation that the bishop partook in. It was not pleasant. It wasn't nice. I wasn't there for it because I've been isolated for the last 3 months, essentially. I had to say mass in my bedroom on the cabinet, for goodness sake, yesterday, because the bishop didn't want me saying private masses in the church, never mind public masses. But all of that is over, thank goodness, and the church can move forward as a parish and start to grow again and actually get some life back into it and focus on Christ.
The interesting thing about this is you've been there for no time at all, and these people are behind you, and that's such a wonderful thing, because you're, at the end of the day, you can have a pop at you for being a bit like edgy, because, you are, and it's part of it's a personality trait. It's like, I find things funny. I want to, but you can't quibble with your commitment and dedication to your faith and service of your parishioners. And they pick that up while they're being condescended to by some archbishop who, I find it astonishing actually that he uses that sort of language that he's used, and the way that he's not only tried to throw you under the bus, he's tried to throw you under the bus and then get the bus to reverse over you repeatedly, time and time again. And it's just like, hang on a minute, mate. Are you a Christian or what?
Yeah, there's so much that when it all does come out, the truth always out. So when it all comes out, people will be like, oh, I didn't realize that was going on. Oh, I didn't realize that. Because people make assumptions like, oh, Father Calvin's not he's not being obedient to his bishops. Like, I have been obedient to my bishop. I've broken no rules. I've broken no laws. I've not been disciplined, not once. And there's all kinds of bullying and manipulation going on behind the scenes that I have just let pass and not fought against. And so there's only so much you can do. You just have to say, okay, leave it to the Lord now, because, and that's what we've done. And actually the parish are so faithful. The vast majority of people in this parish are absolutely Christ-centered people who realize that the way that the body of this individual organization was going was leading to death, and they wanted to go towards Christ instead. And so that's a bold move, stepping out in faith, leaving behind a jurisdiction you've been a part of for a long time, because it's not bearing any good fruit, and deciding actually you want to be a bit more entrepreneurial, a bit more, see it as a church plant and grow, invite new people in. And actually,
so why do you need a new bishop then? Why can't you just say, right, you guys, we've decided to leave. Yeah. So then you could start, your own church without having to be accountable to some weirdo bishop. That's what the best evangelical church is like.
Yeah, you can't just start your own church. That's basically starting your own religion. The way the Christian faith works is that, since the Book of Acts, we have the apostles, we have the bishops who are ultimately given authority from Christ. And those 12 apostles, they've passed on their authority to the next generation, etc. That's what bishops are. That's their apostolic succession. It's the laying on of hands and the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. So they have that otherworldly authority. And then priests act on behalf of bishops in parishes, because bishops can't be everywhere. And so you can't have a priest without a bishop, because we are acting on behalf of the bishops.
Well, why can't you start up an organization then? So, like when I go to those mega churches with Larry, like there's a group of mega churches, whether there's a bishop or not, I don't know, but it's certainly, it's seeded. It's a very different thing.
In the church though. It's not rooted in the historic apostolic faith. It's a new thing. It's been done over the last few years. It's problematic in lots of ways, and this is probably part of the reason why these great big mega churches, they end up focusing on, they become like seeker friendly, they call it, right? So they focus on getting just people in, masses of people, not necessarily a depth of faith, but a large number of people. And then they don't want to offend them because they don't want to turn people away. So they don't get to the root of the truth of the faith. They're very surface level. And then you end up getting into corruption where I was speaking to someone the other day. I was like, so how are you invited here? I was with a bunch of pastors. He said, oh, I'm not a pastor. I'm the pilot for that pastor. I just flew his plane. Like, okay, yeah, you get to this level where pastors have their own private planes, and then it's kind of the extravagance of it all. Just it steps away from what we should be doing, what we should be focusing on. And then, of course, so you either get the monetary corruption because there's no accountability and they just make a load of money, or you get the sexual corruption where they're having kids with all these parishioners and or sexually abusing people. And these mega churches always end up in either sexual corruption or monetary corruption on a deep level.
Without wishing to be rude, so do the big organized churches.
No, not at all. Not at all. This is
the Catholic Church is mired.
No, it's not. It's not. This is
not anymore.
This has been the biggest scandal of the last century, in that there were very few evil men who infiltrated the church and acted in an evil way. However, the media and the liberals and anyone working on the side of the enemy wanted to tarnish the name of the church, and so they blew it up all out of proportion. The number of sexual abusers in the clergy are far fewer per capita than in any other industry. Like, more teachers are sexual abusers than priests, but you ask anyone where are sexual abusers, the church, because that's the way it's bam, bam, bam with the media. And people trust, at that point in time, people still trusted the media. And so this, actually, if you look at the effects that that's had, Ireland has done away with the Catholic faith. Ireland was pretty much one of the most Catholic countries in Europe. And now it's entirely woke, entirely trans, entirely globalist. There are very few sound Catholics left because the whole image of the church was tarnished by an attack from the enemy.
Well, yeah, to a degree. You did have mountain laundries, and you did have the Christian Brothers who would, and I did film in a place where they found the remains of quite a lot of young boys.
But even that, so much of that was manipulation. Like Canada, over the last couple of years,
I literally, where I went there, I filmed there. I saw it.
Well, I mean, that might be one is, I don't know that particular instance, but I know that in Canada they were painting that there was these mass graves, and then they got there and there were no graves. And
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not open to media manipulation, but it's also,
you're going to get evil. You're going to get evil men everywhere. You're going to get evil acts everywhere.
You are.
But the point
you are going to get evil everywhere.
To what capacity? And I think, generally speaking, these mega churches end up falling in one of those two paths. The church, Big C, hasn't fallen for 2,000 years. It won't. 1.4 billion Catholics around the world, 85 million Anglicans around the world, and somewhere between those two, Orthodox Christians around the world. Like, the Big C church, the apostolic churches, the gates of hell will never prevail against them.
Yeah, well, I'll take your word for it. And I do agree that you will not be able to kill. You can't kill Christ, as Easter teaches us.
Also, I would want to set up like my own thing anyway. That'll become the Calvin Robinson show. It'd be, it's your ego, and you get fed, and your sins grow, and it's like, that's never a good place to put yourself. You want to be in a place where you're accountable, not just to your parishioners, but to your bishop. You want to be a place where you got people to support you and love you in a good way, not in an adoration way, but in a faithful, accountable way.
Yeah, I'm just saying you got to find one. I still want to talk to you in a few months.
I know.
You happen to have said something really, blasphemous, like life is sacred or something.
Right.
And, that's all.
I know.
I
need a good, strong bishop. And I'm sure I will get a good, strong bishop. But because they are out there, they're just hard to find at the moment.
They're in Ghana. They're all in Africa.
There are a lot in Africa. The Africans are so solid.
It'd be so funny with the woke people. I love the woke people. I think we said this last week. Let's have a diverse bishop, Archbishop, Pope, and then they realise that the diverse Archbishop Pope is hardcore compared to the the liberal lefty Argentinian or wherever he was from. God rest his soul. Right, we must discuss the local elections because we must. And what are your thoughts?
Firstly, I think it's been overhyped massively. It's like, oh my goodness, we're breaking the uniparty, and the two-party system is done. The Conservatives are dead. Labour should be feeling ashamed. Well, firstly, it's a local election, right? And local elections are not general elections. We've seen this time and time again. Those of us who have been in politics for a while now can say that whatever happens in the locals is not always reflected in the generals. People rebel in the locals because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make a difference, right? Because, local councillors, they're in charge of bins, roads,
flags on top of council buildings.
Right, but very little else. Really.
But that makes a difference to me.
In your day-to-day life, it doesn't make a massive difference.
It does. It really pisses me off when I drive past a council building with an LGBTQIA child mutation card.
Sure, but they're not shaping national policy. And so people feel like they can take more of a gamble in the local elections than they do in the general. What we've seen time and time again is people make their voices heard in the local, but then they get to the general, they stand in that ballot box, in that little booth, and then they put the cross in either Labour or Conservative every single time. And in 2015, UKIP had around 500 councillors elected, which is a very similar number to what Reform have had this year around. What happened in the next general election? Not much. Did UKIP storm the Houses of Parliament? No, not really. Will Reform? I doubt it. So I think people are overhyping it, putting too much weight onto it. It could build momentum. It could become something big, but it's not yet. I think it's a positive in that, Farage has been acting like a petulant child for the last few months. He's been awful towards his own team, including people like Rupert Lowe. And people have moved past that now and moved on, which is good for him. If he can continue and build the momentum and stop attacking his own people and stop infighting, then maybe he's got a shot at something. But, what's this history show?
Well, I suppose that the thing is that for me, that a lot of that council election stuff was two things. It was a vote. It was a referendum on whether Farage is the right person to take the far right extremists forward, and also it was a referendum on how much the Labour government were hated and despised and loathed. So, I made my feelings about Nigel Farage and the way that reform is run pretty clear, so I don't need to go back over that. But I do think the most interesting part of it wasn't so much that Labour got so roundly dismissed, is that the Conservatives got so roundly dismissed. When you're in opposition, you're going to benefit from, the British equivalent of the midterms, I suppose. That's what these sorts of things are. In a way, they're not nearly as cool or as well put through, and they don't know, and as you quite rightly say, it's the mirage of power rather than power itself. But it was amazing to see how utterly decimated the Conservatives were. And that for me meant that reform will be quite a powerful political force, because, look, the media are going to turn on them and destroy them as they do with anything. But
look at what the media was saying, right? So straight away they're saying, "Oh, you now need to focus on the middle ground. You need to change your angle because you're too extreme." Like, if their party has just had this much success, surely the thing they should be doing is continuing whatever they've been doing. Like, they finally addressed immigration, etc. Surely that's what they should focus on, rather than suddenly leaving behind their core and going straight to the centre, which would be a massive mistake. But it shows that that's people like Beth Rigby were saying that.
Yeah. And what do you make of the, just listening to this, is she called Lucy Powell? This,
awful.
Yeah.
Lucy Powell.
And then I listened, someone sent me a Keir Starmer thing this morning of him saying, and it's this insane thing that socialists do. In a way, I'm very grateful. This is going to be a really roundabout point, but you'll see where I'm going. In a way, I'm really grateful for Tony Blair, because if we hadn't had smooth old, suave old Tony Blair pretending to be like a moderate centrist, Labour, new Labour, education. If we hadn't had that vile human being doing his dirty, evil work, and we get to be visited by it all now, the Equality Act and all of this sort of stuff. And if we hadn't been visited by Tony Blair, we probably wouldn't have spotted what Keir Starmer was doing. But Starmer is what Lucy Powell said for the audience. Was she said that Tim Montgomery on Any Questions, I think on Radio 4, mentioned the child sexual exploitation gang. Sorry, YouTube. Sorry, so sorry. And she went, "Oh, we're going to pull out that dog whistle, are we?" And you think that is endemic at the top levels of government in this country. They really, 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 really despise their own people. And they think these nowhere people, the Keir Starmers, the Mark Carneys, these sort of weird Labour people who live very disconnected from your average person, they genuinely think that why should they care about these young girls? Why should, and also even to mention their suffering is in some way a dog whistle towards, far-rightism or racism. But on the same breath, they'll defend a band like Kneecap, who are calling for the actual murder of MPs.
It was monstrous what Lucy Powell MP said.
But she's not going to be sacked. It's all no one's going to sack her.
The Pakistani Muslim grape gangs are still active in the country. Young girls are still being groomed and abused, and they won't address it. And to call it a dog whistle is just disgusting. To raise the issue is a problem. Why? Because diversity is our strength, and we are a multicultural society, etc., etc. They've got to stop.
It's not our strength.
They've got to help
really
young
not.
girls.
It's really not our strength. Diversity is really not our strength. The only diversity which is anybody's strength is a different opinion. So you can go. I was listening to this woke bird talking this morning to Vanessa Feltz, and she was because it appeared on my feed, and I just thought I think it was straight after that I just thought, you know what, I can't be bothered to engage. But what was her name? Because I think I saved a draft response. By the way, I will never kill myself, but if I do, can you get someone to release all my drafts from Twitter?
Yeah.
Because if I want to go out with a bang, she's called Zoe Gardner, and she was perfect.
Sorry, I'm just lost in a world of the things that Laurence Fox does not dare tweet.
Do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine?
It's pretty hardcore. But I was thinking that, she's so full of emotion. It's like, emotion. And I just think, if you ever want to learn how to deal with a woke person, it's like the Jack Nicholson line, how do you write women so well? And he says, well, I take a man and take away reason and accountability. It's the same with woke people. She is very compelling in her argument, but it's just a feelings argument. It has nothing to do with common sense, reason, rationale, achievability, anything. She's just going, it's really dreadful that you're such racist, bigot, far-right extremist for not wanting your borders to be overrun. Mm. And you're just like, okay, that's why you lot don't like debating as well, because you see yourself as right just because you feel it. And we've entered this world where feelings are much more important than everything else. And we see it all the way through, down the way through identity, the idea of identity. Your identity is more important than the reality of the fact that you're a woman or a man. And it seems to me that they're on a hiding to violence, actually, because how can you negotiate with someone who is behaving like a toddler? I mean, it's very, very
them like a toddler.
difficult. What?
You have to discipline them like a toddler.
I know, but that means that's not going to end well, because these toddlers are fully grown people, and they start riots and they do what Antifa did in America. And I wonder, is this Starmer regime, because surely Starmer, I know that you're sort of underplaying the thing of reform, but never has there been 5 political parties contesting the top spot. The Lib Dems did really, really well.
Yeah, they did.
Their leader says a woman can quite clearly have a penis. This stuff is going to end pretty badly, I would say.
Yeah. It was crazy to see Labour get put into the other category. Like, the party of government weren't even on the table of votes. It was like Reform, Lib Dems, Conservatives, Green, and other. And Labour included in that. That was abysmal. And but then Keir Starmer comes out and says, we've heard you, we get it. We're going to do what we've been doing faster and harder. We're going to do more of it. We're going to double down. It's like, you will have our communism. It's like tone deaf. Or is it tone deaf? Is it a threat? Is it like, you guys dared vote against us, you're going to get more communism than you have felt in your life before?
Well, that's what I mean. You got 4 years of it. Yeah. He's saying, I've heard you, I'm going to be worse.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, Mark Carney just got installed in Canada. Exactly the same situation. The first thing he announces is, we're going to censor the internet. X is a bad platform full of racists and bigots. We're going to cut down. Basically, we're in power now. No one's going to challenge us. We're going to silence any opposing voices. The only narrative is ours. This is what the communists are like. I expect to hear something similar out of Australia in the next week or two, because the commies have just won down there as well. And that was interesting. I don't know if you saw the side-by-side graphs of voters in Canada and Australia. Exactly the same graph. Like, the Conservatives were up here, the Liberals were down here, right until end of March, beginning of April. Then it switched. And so the Liberals won and the Conservatives lost. I don't know I'm not saying it was a fix, but something's happened.
I think it is. I hate to be, thrown into the conspiracy theory trap, but Mark Carney has 3 separate passports.
Right. He was my neighbour in Swiss Cottage. I didn't realise he was Canadian. I'm like, what is this man doing running the Canadian Liberal Party? Labour
He's
Party.
a citizen of nowhere.
That's what
He's
they
a
are.
global
Citizens of
citizen.
nowhere.
And
Globalist.
he is a I can see why people would go, look, we need to. It's interesting to see what Polyev did and why it's happened. But I'm not a big purchaser of unless votes are written on paper and counted. Yeah. I don't believe them.
Yeah.
I just don't. So anyone I think who believes the voting machine, I think is making a mistake. I mean, I know the Americans put huge amounts of effort into making sure that their election run fairly and freely this time.
But still, they need to go back to pen and paper ballot on the day across the country, one night, one vote, results the next morning. That's a civilized way to do it.
They do. They really, really do. Because we've got 4 years of Labour now. And I'm interested to see whether this reform thing will trigger a load of defections, whether the swellers of this world, because Jenrick's going to lose his seat, right? Necessarily.
Yeah, I think they'll give Jenrick another seat. I think he'll become the party leader. I think Kemi Badenoch's had her day, bless her, but she didn't perform. And so they'll be panicking now. I think they'll give it to Jenrick.
Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe I sort of don't care anymore. I'm like, I think most people need to start living in a politics of one. It's like, are you open to other people's ideas? Do you judge someone based around who they vote for? No, I don't.
Yeah, I kind of do, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. I don't think it's healthy. I really don't. I'm like,
I think at this point, if you're voting for the commies, you probably can't be trusted with anything serious.
But only 1 in 5 voted for the commies, and even that lot deserted the commies this time round. And Keir Starmer's ends justify the means.
Yeah, but I mean, in Canada and Australia, they've literally just won the generals.
Yeah, this is true.
Like Canada in particular, after all the tyranny they had forced medical mandates, they had lockdowns over COVID that were extra. They had Trudeau saying that you're a racist if you even mention that you don't want to have the jab. It was like pushing the trans thing left, right, and center. They've got medical assisted suicide, killing veterans who can't afford to heat their homes. Like they've had such a horrible time, and so to double down and vote for that, that's hard. That's hard to trust.
Well, it's maybe indicative of their human capacity to inflict suffering and to receive it.
So if this goes out on Wednesday, I'm going to Canada tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see what the vibe is like out there.
Well, I think Canada has a different. It's so big, isn't it? So
yeah,
you've got Ottawa, and then you've got Alberta.
Right, I think Alberta wants independence at this point.
Yeah, I mean, why shouldn't people get very, very upset when borders are redefined across Europe? So why wouldn't they get upset when borders are redefined in America? It's like, it's crazy. But I think what's the general passage and path of time is actually quite positive, because if you think about it, next month is the holiest month of the LGBTQ plus year. And I don't think it's going to turn up big. I don't think that this horrible migraine-inducing child mutilation cult flag is going to fly in Britain next month. I mean, it will, but I don't think people are going to care about it. I think Sadiq Khan may cover Regent Street in it and all that sort of stuff, but I think that the days of this celebration of of identity and of the subjective, and rather than of the objective, are finished. And I think these voting intentions towards reform, whether you like them or not, is indicative of the fact that people are just fed up now, and they're going to get change whether they like it or not. And so I take that as a hopeful thing, much as I think that reform is a political Ponzi scheme, which I've said before, and I think a part of the Uni Party. I've said it, but the people, whether they voted for reform or not, the people are saying, I'm done with this. I am done with your socialism. I'm done with your lack of conservatism. So both main political parties, I mean, the Conservative Party, the oldest party on earth, and they could feasibly be down to sort of Lib Dem levels of seats from the early 2000s, not early 2000s, sorry, early 2010s.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the next general election is 3 or 4 years away, and a week is a long time in politics.
Do you think it is really for 3 or 4 weeks away?
years.
Do you think once Keir Starmer starts hammering stuff through,
Yeah,
when he's so unpopular, you don't think that
he's not going to give us an election?
What about if there is a sudden bunch of defections to reform, MP defections, and triggering a series of by-elections from the Conservatives and Labour?
They can defect without calling a by-election, and the only way
not with 4 years to go.
Yes, they can. They can literally defect.
No, I know they can, and the
only way we'd get an election is if there was a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister from the Labour Party, who have a majority. So there's not going to be an election for 3 or 4 years.
But do you think Keir Starmer would survive a vote of no confidence? Yeah, he would, because there's...
I don't think they would call one. Maybe they'd...
This whole I get it thing, I get it. I'm just going to be more of a socialist, like, really? So I think we have to focus on the politics of one, of you as a person, as us all as individuals, to turn around and say, I'm not going to engage with that. I'm going to engage with the way that I deal with people, which is I will listen to people and I will take on board their views and opinions, but I'm not going to be forced to join a tribe that has to believe in a certain set of views, which is where this sort of woke right Puritanism comes from. And a lot of me just thinks this is going to play out in whatever way it plays out. And there's not really a great deal anyone is going to be able to do about it. That's what I think. I think Labour are going to be completely wiped out. And I think that every time there's an election called, a by-election called, which you can expect 2 or 3 a year at the very least, their reform are going to win every single time. And I think that's going to start a change of mood in the country. Well, Keir Starmer's going more wind farms, more solar panels, more net zero, more control, more free speech hating. I just heard today that they put 100% tariff on British films. Trump has.
All foreign films on 100% tariff now to save Hollywood, which I think is a mistake, because Hollywood should be left to die. But I understand his purpose, to save American industry, which I think that's great. For a leader of a country should be saving its own people, its own industries first and foremost. I agree with the premise of what you're saying, ignoring the politics of the uni party. I don't necessarily agree with the politics of the one. I think rather than rejecting tribalism, we need to redefine our tribe. We need to come back to the Christian tribe. We need to come back to something that brings us all together. So we're not just a bunch of individualists. Like, we're collectively, because that's the left wing, because they are collectivists, right? So they are collectively coming together under globalism, under LGBT, under trans ideology, or whatever Marxist ideology, whichever critical theory they pick. They're always coming together, and we're always disparate. Like, we need to refine our collective tribe, and I think that is the British tribe, the English tribe is the Christian tribe. I'm avidly against. I think James Lindsay is really pushing this woke right thing now. I think we need to be careful with that, because he's targeting the right now. He spent a long time targeting the left, and now he's targeting the right. And I think actually, while the pendulum is swinging back the other way, we take advantage of it, not shut it down. And I get this. I get that the centrist dads want to remain centrist dads, and they want to remain in a position of influence. But actually, it's time for the right to take the position of influence, because the left had it for too long. They've destroyed the West.
Yeah, something more muscular. I was listening to Douglas talking to Steve Edgington about this sort of stuff, and I think Douglas is probably, if we were last week, we were talking about what the difference between right wing and left wing is, and Douglas, I'd very much go, you're right wing, you're conservative. I get what he's saying. So, but he's an atheist, I think, as far as I can gather. I don't know if he is.
Yeah, even Douglas is getting more controlled narrative now, more kind of not gatekeepery, but if you monitor what he's been saying with the last few days, he's like, who can engage in this conversation, who can't engage in this conversation, things that.
Is he not using their own weapons against them, which is the lived experience argument, which is to say, it's very difficult to have a nuanced and serious view on any topic unless you've actually involved yourself in it.
He is, but I don't agree with him on that. I think actually what Douglas Murray and James Lindsay have in common is that it's all about, they're protecting the kosher, they're protecting the Zionist, pro-Israel side of the debate, but actually the divide shouldn't be whether you're pro-Israel or anti-Israel, or pro-Zionist, anti-Zionist, or pro-Semitic or anti-Semitic. The divide should be whether you are for the saving of Christendom. And I think once they've shifted their paradigm so far, to the left now that they only see things through the Israel lens. That's problematic because the West isn't built upon Israeli values or anti-Israeli values. The West is built on Christian values.
Well, I was listening to Matt Walsh and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, he was good. He was great.
And they both made the point that, does Israel exist as a country if it can't protect itself and it's 100% reliant on?
But I'm with Matt on that, and that it's not really my major concern. It's a foreign war in a foreign country. Like, I support people's right to defend themselves and all of that, but it's not my major concern. My major concern is, how do we protect our country? How do we?
I agree with you, but that's what I mean.
But I don't think Douglas Murray and James Lindsay are on the same wavelength with us on that. I think a lot of the former protagonists in this story have shifted, and their paradigm is now about making sure that the only people that have a platform are the ones that are, pro-Zionist. And I think that's a very dangerous place for us to be entering.
Yeah. The approved narrative and the Overton window is very centrist dad over these sorts of things. And it's acceptable to speak out against things from a position of safety. I get it, but I think that's what I mean by the politics of the one.
Right.
Because if you can't have your own living arrangement sorted and your own set of values in your own house. So I always say in this house, this is a high trust house. So if you want something, ask for it and you can have it. But if you take it, I'll just stop buying it. I'm not going to go mental and start shouting at people, but we either live in a high trust house or we live in a low trust house. And therefore you extend that out to society. You go, the high trust in your own society is that society must be able to defend itself and sustain itself.
Yeah.
And Britain must be able to do that. And it must be able to, we've rejected a large part of the woke shit. And now we are going to end up having to reject net zero and this sort of stuff because just for national survival. But the idea that a country, I like the fact that countries trade. And this is why I really like tariffs, by the way. I think it's so good. I think tariffs are a great idea because it's like, we as much as possible, we want to make our own stuff. And if your stuff is better, I mean, China's stuff is just nicked off America, rebranded, done cheaper and flung out. And why should America not?
Right. I mean, they don't follow patent laws. They don't follow copyright laws. They just copy and paste and make an inferior version that's cheaper. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. So perhaps the new world order that a Christian would want to see is the defense of Christian nations like Britain. I think America is a Christian nation because of the Constitution. The Constitution is very Christian, and Britain has always been a bit of a sort of annoying neighbour in Europe because it's based on geography and everything else.
Yeah,
that we should. I think if Christendom actually did bother, instead of having calls to prayer in the Queen's Chapel, if it said no, this is a Christian building, and if you want to do inclusivity, you guys, let's do a carol concert in the Finsbury Park Mosque, but it would never happen. So I would suggest that we go, you guys get on with your religion, we'll get on with our religion, and also in our religion, these are the things that we don't allow to happen. These are unacceptable in our country. And if we did that, we would be much happier. I think people would be much, much, much happier. Because they'd have a sense of identity instead of when I talk to my kids and trying to untangle the crap that they get taught at school, which is moral relativism. It's like you actually want some form of certainty that, you want to know that your grandfather fought so that you could have this conversation. So you were free enough to do it. So the erosion of free speech is always, for me, the sign that a society is in absolute freefall. So I would love to see Britain turn around and go, we're going to spend more money on defense. We're going to frack the hell out of the ground to give up the bounty. And I'd love to also see someone make an engine that could do 500 miles to the gallon. I don't really care. What I don't want to do is have things imposed upon me, ideas imposed upon me, like I have to deal with them. I was watching the Grand Prix yesterday, and the adverts between the Grand Prix, you feel like you're living in a completely different world to the one that you actually live in. It's the cognitive dissonance required to stay sane while watching a set of adverts on whatever F1 TV is. It's just unbelievable. It's beyond. It's that's what I mean by the politics of the one. It started at home, and also only really there are so few people in this world who will actually bother telling the truth. You know, there just are so few that you might as well also disengage from the people who won't. Like you said before, you've gone, you know, people aren't ready to stand up. Okay, well then, you know, don't engage with them and try and convince them to. Just stand up for yourself.
Yeah. I was watching a game yesterday. I believe it's called Camping. I don't know if you heard of this.
No, I haven't.
It was like a world championship or something. They've got these boards, like wooden boards with a hole in, and these men have beanbags, and they have to throw these beanbags into the holes in the boards. I was like, this is the most basic game ever. But they paint it out. You know, Americans love their sport, and I love how enthusiastic they are. But they were making it out so that I could be, and all the athletes were like darts players, right? So they all got these big paunches, and they sip a bit of their pint between throws. It was the best fun ever.
So it's like darts with beanbags.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Are we going to Scathos? Are you going to come?
I'd love to come to Scathos. Let's do it. Yeah.
You're invited. I'm booking it in. I'm trying to think of what else interests me this week without...
Well, while you think, I'll give my Fox and Fr the follows this week. Mine will be Carl Benjamin, who is
very good.
Sargon _of_Akkad with 2 Ks. Because when I'm scrolling through my timeline, there are very few people that I'm like, yeah. Like everything I see that Carl posts, I agree with. I'm like, his opinion is spot on with so much of this stuff. I'm just praying that he comes to the faith, because it's the one thing that he's on the periphery, and he understands the importance of the Christian faith for this land of Great Britain, but he's just not quite committed to it yet. So I'm praying that he comes into the faith.
He's very sound.
He is very
sound. My Fox and Fr follows are going to be Rachel Halliwell, who
is she a Spice Girl?
She was Samina Halliwell's mum, and she has been campaigning tirelessly to have Samina's stories told.
Did you do a documentary on this?
Yeah, we're going to release it on the 12th of June, and it's a seriously look into the levels of appallingness that this family were treated by the system. So Rachel Halliwell is, so I'm just trying to find what her thing is. Anyway, you'll find her. And then also James Dreyfus.
Oh yeah.
And anyone of you who watched The Thin Blue Line back in the day when they made
I knew him from Gimme Gimme Gimme. Like me and my sister used to watch that when we shouldn't be watching it. Like we were far too young. So we used to watch it and laugh our heads off. Not understand most of the jokes, but yeah, he was great.
Well, he's a lovely guy. He's Dreyfus.
He is a lovely guy,
and he's campaigned solidly over the gender critical stuff. And I'm really grateful. And J Mac, the comedian, there's some he's very funny. There's a lot of comedians who follow me who've had their careers cancelled. Oh, did you watch the trigonometry thing?
I saw clips of it. I don't watch trigonometry. I can't sit there and watch centrist dads for an hour.
I wasn't so interested in the centrist dad part of it. I was interested in the Constantine tying up a feminist and not
even that. I'm like, I can't sit and watch a feminist argue a centrist dad for like, and he had some good points and managed to shut it down. That's all great. But I'm like, I don't know how people find it entertaining. Like, I want to pull my hair out.
Albert, you are hilarious. Let's see if we've got any questions from our audience.
We have got questions. Lucy Peters says, were you as shocked as me at Nigel's landslide victory? Are the papers out of touch in misreporting that people don't like Farage? Reform's win suggests that the public love him, but I stand with Tommy Robinson.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was surprised, not so much that Reform did well, but that Conservatives did so badly. That was, for me. I think it was, as I said earlier, I think it was a bit of a referendum on Nigel, and people still think Nigel's going to deliver, and good on them. But I also agree that Tommy is, that guy has suffered, but maybe he's just too far away from the centrist dad system that is British politics to penetrate. But I don't think he is. I think I think once he's out of prison, I think he's going to, we'll see. I'm surprised. What I am surprised is that Ben Habib and Rupert, well, I don't know if Rupert's done it, but that Ben Habib has started a new political party. I just think what a waste of time that is on myself. What do you think?
I don't think this is a referendum on Farage. I may be wrong. I don't think the British public love Farage. I think there's a small demographic that certainly does and always has followed him everywhere. However, I think people held their nose in voter reform because Labour are tyrannous, commie, Marxist, horrible party, and the Conservatives have been a letdown for 14 years. So people are like, well, we don't want to vote Labour. We can't vote Conservative. And so the only other option was to vote Reform. I think that's what happened, but we'll see. If Reform managed to win in the general election, then I'll be wrong. But I'm not convinced.
Fair enough. Oh, Chris Thomas has asked the question that I was just sort of vaguely answered. Thoughts on Ben Habib's new political party, Integrity, Cal?
I've got a lot of time for Ben Habib. I think he's great. If he can launch a new party and make it a serious competitor, fantastic. I understand what you're saying, Laurence, and is why another party, but at the same time, where else would he go? And we've got so many little parties doing
maybe just things. Get out of politics.
But he wants to make a difference. I think that's good.
I know, but everyone wants to make a difference. Then the more, and it seems to be entirely, the bell curve. I mean, so an exponential graph. The more you want to make a difference, the more they hate you, and the less you want to make a difference, the more you're loved by everybody. The establishment is very picky about who it invites in. I remember when I was an actor getting loads of invitations to these establishment dues, and Kevin Wakely saying to me, you're being invited in, they're inviting you in to the establishment. And my instinctive response was, no, thank you. I don't want to be part of the establishment. And I've really done well on proving that one. Aaron Edwards, how can the church reach the right? You have already spoken about that. Kathy Richards, do you think it was appropriate for President Trump to share the image of him as the Pope?
I thought it was funny, actually.
Funny.
So he was asked by a journalist, who do you want to be Pope? He was like, I think I'd make a good Pope. You know how he does, over the top.
The best.
He's a joker. He's a natural troll. He has fun.
Yeah.
I don't think he was mocking the Catholic faith. I don't think he was mocking the Catholic Church. I don't think he was mocking Catholics. I don't think he was mocking the Pope. He likes Pope Francis. He loves Catholics. He invited, just this week, he installed Bishop Robert Barron as a member of the Religious Liberty Committee, and he invited Catholics to the White House just last week. For people that were getting overly sensitive, and I think they were just, and also they were the same people that didn't actually care when the Olympics actually mocked the Eucharist, mocking the Catholic faith. And so I just, people need to wind their neck in.
They're so opportunistic, aren't they? I couldn't agree with you more. Stephen Wally, are we heading towards a caliphate state in the UK in the next few decades? Yeah.
Yeah,
we are. We absolutely are. Oh God, we are. Even like clever, moderate thinkers who aren't, far right extremists are saying that's the way it's going. We got to work out a way of dealing with it. And I'm like, you got any plans, or is it just like dig your head in the sand and wait for your grandchildren to wear burqas?
People have got to stop saying Islam bad. Let's have, our culture's been great under Christianity, and then not doing anything about it. They've got to go to church. People have got to stop going back to church. They've got to embrace the Christian faith. If people believe that Christianity built Britain and England is a Christian nation, they should go to church and stop saying, "Oh, I like it from the periphery," because that's not good enough. It's built on Christian values, which means people are living in Christ. And if you're stood on the outside looking at it and thinking, where have all the Christians gone? Well, then you should be one of the Christians.
Well, so maybe we should put together a list of sound churches so that people can at least, those that are minded to go to church don't end up walking into a blue-haired woke song.
I would say avoid the Church of England, because the Church of England is no longer Christian. So then the next biggest denomination is the Catholic faith, which is growing in England. I would say if you're in England, go to your Catholic parish church.
Okay, That's good. Oh, this is a hard one for you. This is a bit critical of you, Calv.
Cool.
Stevie G, I'd like to know, if he's such a champion of free speech and has genuine belief in what he says, why does Robinson block anyone who asks a simple question?
I've never blocked a single person that asks a simple question. I block trolls. I block nasty, hostile people. I have about 427,000 followers, right? So that means every day my mentions is full of random people asking things. And if they're positive, I give them a like, or I respond, or I try and give them a little bit of my time. If they're negative, if they're horrible, I just block them instantly. I have no time. I can't. The amount of trolls out there, I have no time for them. And so if you've been blocked, I don't think Stevie G has been, because he wouldn't be posing a question. But if someone's been blocked, they've not been blocked for asking a simple question. And if you believe that you have, then maybe you need to look at how you ask that question. Because my time is like your time, right? We have a limited amount of it, and no one has any entitlement to it. So if people feel that they're entitled to your time, they're not. That's
especially if they're going to use it to say something which is so. It's not even a question. It's more like just, the one I get all the time. Lizzie actually defends me sometimes because she can actually be bothered. I don't bother, but it's the people going, "You're a failed father, you're a failed actor, you kid," all that. And
you don't need to hear that. It's horrible.
If I can be bothered, I block them. But most of the time, I just ignore, and I kind of take some joy in the fact that people are tweeting relentlessly at me, and I don't read what they're saying.
I take the joy in the block. So I remember I had 10,000 followers on Twitter, right? And I was speaking on education, so I was very up and coming at the time. And someone said to me once, "Don't worry about your numbers. Like if someone is a horrible person, just block them. Don't worry about how many followers you've got." And I took that to heart. And actually, since then, my followers have quadrupled and then some. And I block every single nasty person. And I get a little bit of joy out of it. Every time someone attacks me, block them. Don't give them time of day. Don't give them a response. Or I try not to. Sometimes I fall to the trap and I'll...
So the lesson, Stevie G, is they still have their free speech. Calvin hasn't.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. So what's the question? Like blocking someone, and this is an ignorance or an
they can still see your posts as well. So that, their free speech exists, and they can screenshot it and send it back.
But it's a real stupidity that I see quite often. People say, "You don't believe in free speech because you blocked X, Y, or Z." Like blocking someone does not really remove them of their free speech. They can continue saying whatever they want to say. Like banning someone from Twitter would remove their free speech, but blocking them just means I don't have to see what they're saying. Like free speech doesn't mean you're compelled to listen. I can walk away. You can continue yelling into the wind.
Yeah, that's exactly what free speech is. Okay, another one for you, Calv. Cohairs. Father Calvin, please see if you can persuade Laurence to apply for political asylum in the US. They're coming for him as they have with Tony Robinson. Winston Marshall raised this with Caroline Levitt, White House press secretary recently. Laurence would be safe, but would also become an icon for the persecution that's going on.
That is true. Our mutual friend Winston Marshall did raise this in the White House. I thought it was a good question. We've been pondering this for a while. Should the US take on board asylum seekers from the UK who are being persecuted because there's no free speech in the UK? I think it's a good question. I think it would be nice to see that happen. I'd love to claim political asylum in the US. I don't think it's safe for people like us in the UK at the moment under the Cobby regime.
It really isn't. And if you read these, this is the charge. This is my latest charge.
And I'd love for Laurence to come over here and just seek asylum.
I would love. This is my latest charge. Between the 12th and the 9th, 2023, and the 4th and the 10th, Didax namely posted several messages on social media, formerly known as Twitter, which was capable of encouraging the commission of an either way offence. It's like, so something I said might have made someone...
It's like I said to you, when you got the first charge, they're going to keep coming, they're going to find new charges, they're going to keep coming until they find something they can get you on. It's lawfare, and it's wicked, absolutely wicked. It
is wicked, actually. But, I suppose, I do. And also, ULEZ is a scam. Like, it's a surveillance state scam. And I will say that in a courtroom, and I'm happy to say that in a courtroom. And I'll also say that all of the Sadiq Khan coming out, he's a liar. That horrible, devious little midget dictator, he's a liar. He's saying that ULEZ has worked, and it's not worked. It's based on a model, rather like Neil Ferguson's model of how many people are going to die of COVID. It's like, it's utter bollocks. And actually, I will defend my right to have an opinion to my dying breath, actually. Because otherwise, I say this a lot to people who say, question my methods. And I say, well, either you create a prison in your own mind, or you go and live in someone else's prison and live free in your mind. And I would rather live freely in my mind and in someone else's prison than live in a prison of my own making freely in someone else's world. And that's a deeply held belief of mine. So yeah, I'd love to, Calvin, I'd love to go and live in America, because I think that I'm struggling to think of a single thing about Britain that I love other than its ground and its land and its soil and all of the,
I'll give you a few things that I've been missing this last week. Custard. Good old-fashioned British custard. So they have something called pudding out here, which looks like custard, but it doesn't taste like custard. And they don't have like birds or ambrosia.
No.
Digestive biscuits, hobnobs.
Oh, God. We'll have to send you an aid package.
Not the high fructose impersonation of chocolate or chocolate-flavored candy, but proper European chocolate. There are lots of little things like that I've been noticing this last week.
We'll send you an aid package. That's what you need. Well, it's hopefully the plan.
And before we came on air, we mentioned a good old-fashioned Sunday roast. Right. So yesterday was Sunday. I wanted a Sunday roast. I wanted some roast beef with roast potatoes, Yorkshire pudding, gravy, and all the veg. And that's so hard to get over here. I ended up getting a prime rib with some broccoli, and I did get mash and gravy, but in America, they don't even do gravy properly, right? Because their gravy is, anyway, I won't go into it. America does many things good, but good old-fashioned English food is hard to come across over here.
Well, we'll have to get together. I'm very keen before the marriage for Lizzie and I to go away somewhere. So hopefully we can come out and see you and cook you a Sunday roast with some Yorkshire puddings.
That'll be lovely.
Yorkshire puddings are very, very
I miss your Sunday roasts in the old Arga. That was always a good time.
I know. I miss them too. But we still have the Sunday roast. I'm exhausted today. I've got lawyers. I've got everything oh God. Oh, right. Prayer time, Cal.
Your PA Lacey said dozens of comments asking for Father Calvin to be the next pope. If they want to install me as the next pope, I will do my duty for the church. I
would love it if I also think that they should have a young pope, because all of these popes that you elect when they're just on the way out.
Only if it's a good pope. If we have a young pope that's a bad pope, that would last far too long. And actually, Pope Francis installed 103 of the current cardinals. I think 22 of them were from Pope Benedict XVI. So some of them are good, some of them aren't. But only 5 of them were from John Paul II. So positive, conservative estimates of the good cardinals are like there's 22 of them. Less positive estimates are there are 5 of them. So so the chances of having a good pope next are very slim. But then the Holy Spirit is at hand. So maybe something will happen. That we'll have a small miracle. There'll be a good pope installed.
Pope Calvin. Right. Pray for our week, Cal.
Let's pray. Almighty God, who has given thine only Son to be unto us both a sacrifice for sin and also an example of godly life, give us grace that we may always most thankfully receive his inestimable benefits, and also daily endeavor ourselves to follow the blessed steps of his most holy life. Through the same Jesus Christ, thy Son, our Lord, who liveth and reigneth with thee in the unity of the Holy Spirit, ever one God, world without end. Amen.
Amen.
Have a blessed
one. I just thought of another topic, but I'll save it for next week. I was going through my junk mail and I found the latest email from my oldest brother.
No. Oh, gosh. Bless him. He's still doing it.
Yeah, apparently.
The only time I ever see those threads now is when someone else replies saying, can you please stop sending me these emails?
I know. I tried to. I read through it, and it's a lot of it is about you and I.
Oh, really? He needs help, man. He can't just sit around obsessing about us all the time, sending these lengthy emails with twisting.
He's probably watching this. Hi, Tom.
If you're watching this, Tom, I'm praying for you, and I hope you can find some peace. Step away from the keyboard, go back to those beautiful kids of yours, spend time with your family, go to church, leave me and Laurence alone. Like, we're not in it doesn't matter what we're talking about. You focus on what you're talking about, okay?
Okay. It really is that simple. Well, I love you, bro, and have a lovely rest of the day. I'm going to go and I'm going to speak to you later.
Oh, yes. Let's do that.
to plan an order of service.
Right, I'm off to the gym because I've been overindulging on American food. I need to go and get my life sorted out. So I'll see you in a bit.
I went for a long walk.
Did you?
I feel like that's me done. All right. God bless.
God bless.